You know, there is something interesting in the context of the Arab world and the issue of this war, because one of the things that many Arab commentators, you know, I've been talking to people in the Arab world, and I've been reading commentators in the Arab world, and, you know, reasonable people, and they are coming with something very significant. They are saying, they are asking, didn't Hamas realize that his atrocities and barbaric attack is going to have such a severe repercussion on the people of Gaza? And didn't he realize that Hamas is a sophisticated organization in the end of the day? I mean, so it was something that puzzled puzzled many people, not only in the Arab world, but I emphasize particularly the Arab world. And I also have been asked about it, you know, so one explanation that I have in mind is Hamas views itself as a regional player. And so one of the explanations that I offered was that Hamas, as such, initiated this war because he wanted to send a message to the region saying, look, with this whole Arab-Israeli rapprochement and normalization, and particularly the growing dialogue between Israel and Saudi Arabia, Hamas, I'm sending a message to the region, and I'm saying to the people in the region, look, you can't do anything about the issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict without taking me, Hamas, into consideration. I have my agenda, I have my power, I have my objectives. If you will try to ignore those, I'm going to dictate, whether you like it or not, I'm going to dictate my agenda and my path. So he launched this attack guided by that. This is one explanation. I think there is another one which has to do with more the psyche of Hamas leaders, at least those who are in Gaza Strip. Look, when I'm looking at Hamas exists for almost 40 years now. It was established in Gaza Strip in the 1980s. He's coming with a very extreme, radical agenda. But in the end of the day, and particularly since 2007, when he actually took over Gaza Strip and established for himself an emirate, an Islamic emirate in Gaza Strip, Hamas looks around and say, okay, I have this emirate, I was able to position myself as a regional player, I was able to position myself as a very significant Palestinian player, but what's next? Because one of the things that Hamas constantly has been criticized by the Arab world was that in the end of the day, they said to Hamas, look, you didn't achieve any of your objectives. You didn't liberate Palestine. You didn't liberate Al-Quds, which is the Arabic name of Jerusalem. You didn't solve the issue of the Palestinian refugees. You actually failed to address almost every one of the objectives of the Palestinian people. And on top of that, you dragged Gaza Strip to havoc and destruction and death and so on, and despair and so on and so on. And indeed, in Gaza Strip, there has been growing discontent with Hamas. Because in the end of the day, the people of Gaza Strip didn't see any hope. They don't see any future because this is a closed circle dictated by Hamas. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe in a way, you know, from a psychological perspective, the psyche of Hamas leaders says, like, in the end of the day, we're kind of like trapped in this dead-end street. And we don't really see a way out of that dead-end street, because they are not going to change their rhetoric, they are not going to change their agenda, they are not going to, because they are devoted to that agenda. They are really ideologically identified with their radical agenda. We are not going to change our operational mode, meaning using violence and more violence and more violence. So in a way, Hamas finds itself trapped in some kind of like a dead-end street, particularly the leaders of Hamas in Gaza Strip. And I think that in a way, this Israeli-Arab normalization, and particularly the Israeli-Saudi dialogue, kind of like fueled sentiments of despair and frustration within Hamas leadership to the point that actually says, you know what, we don't care anymore. We are going to do something that is almost like a Samson choice. We are going to go down and bring down whatever we can going down with us. And I think that maybe that could be some sort of explanation to the answer that is constantly, frequently made in the world, and particularly in the Arab world. Had Hamas did not understand what would be the repercussion of this brutal and barbaric attack, I think that could be some sort of explanation to answer that question.